Alright, what is good everyone? It is your boy Jet. Today we got a Eden Zero arc tier list. Now before we get started, I just want everyone to know that what I say in this video is not an opinion. It's straight facts and you have to learn to accept them. Now, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and let's go ahead and get into this. Alright, so kicking off this list, we got the intro arc or Grand Bell arc, whatever you want to call it, I really don't care. Now, I've read, watched, and played through this arc on multiple different occasions. I'm really tired of seeing this arc. But even though I'm sick and tired of seeing it, it's still a solid arc. It still has those traces of Fairy Tail, you know, it's lighthearted, lewdy, it's cringe at times, but it's a solid arc. So, we're gonna place it in the C tier, right there. Alright, up next we got the Norma arc, alright? I've read it, watched it, played through it over and over again, and I still do not enjoy this arc. I do not like this arc. The best thing to come from this arc was that it introduced the GOAT, Whis, whatever. Also, this arc introduced Pino, but besides that, nothing in this arc I really liked, and things in this arc were done better in other arcs. You know, people be like, oh, you know, there's a giant robot fight, isn't that cool? Done better in Sun Jewel. People say, oh, Sabir, you know, he's pretty cool. No, literally better villains in every other arc. So the Norma arc is getting a D tier. It's not horrible. It's getting a D tier. Alright, up next we got the Skull Fairy arc. So what did this arc actually do for us? Well, we got the ship, you know, that was cool. We got the ship, the home base. It gave us Beto with an Urza skin on. And we got to be introduced to the mother of the ship, Witch. And you know, we got a cool fight between Shiki and Beto. I mean, at least Crimson. And we got the introduction of the Union Army. But if I'm being for real, this should not be a full arc. This is like the pre-game of the Gilst arc. This is the pre-show. This should not be its own arc. This should not be its own arc. It should be squeezed into the Gilst arc, and that's it. So with that, we're gonna put the Skull Fairy in the D tier. Alright, so up next we got the Gilst arc. This, a very, very solid arc. So in this arc, Elise actually gives the crew their ship, the Eden Zero. And for some reason, this is the arc when the Witch officially joins the crew, which once again further proves that the Skull Fairy arc did not need to exist. You know, Shiki got his name of the Demon King, became the captain of the ship. This arc also introduced us to a lot of important characters such as Jin, Draken Joe, and it introduced us to the two best girls, Homura and Sister Ivory. We got introduced to one of the most important stables in the entire universe, the Irrational Seis Galactica. And this arc was very entertaining, the drama, seeing all these girls just turned into stone. It was darker, it delved into that darker tone. And there were some really good fights in this arc. You know, there was a lot of fan service, okay, I'll give you that, but it was necessary for this arc. So, with that being said, Gilst is an arc that is very important, very good, and an arc that deserves the A tier. Alright, so the next arc we have is Digitalis, one of the more unique planets in arcs in the entire series. First of all, it was an isekai. You can't tell me this was not an isekai arc, and you know what's crazy about that? It's better than most isekais. This arc also introduced us to another best girl in Hermit. And this arc was very simple but fun. First of all, it's a very unique concept of an arc in planets. Like, it's a planet made of codes. It's a server, it's a game. But this arc told a very interesting story about how Hermit just doesn't like all humans because of what happened in the past. And it's very entertaining, it's really good, and allowed for Hermit to have a fleshed out character introduction. And along with the Gilst arc, this arc delves more into the darker tones, which we'll see later on in more art. So with all that being said, I'm giving Digitalis the B tier. Definitely deserves it. Alright, so the next arc we have is the Miladian arc. I probably pronounced that wrong, but I really don't care. I think this is the shortest arc in Eden Zero, and unironically, it's the arc that feels like filler. But what else did this arc give us? You know, it gave us Homura in a bunny suit, good job. Gave us Nurse Ivory, good job. Homura got a really cool fight, another good job. But even with all those positives, this arc was filler. It felt like filler. And if we were to take it out, would it make much of a difference? No. Instead of having a full arc where they go here, just have them go there, ask Xiaomei where they need to go next, and then leave. That's it. This arc was like canon filler. So with that, I'm giving Miladion, whatever it is, the D tier. Alright, up next we got the Sun Jewel arc. This right here is a top tier arc, not just in Eden Zero, but the entirety of New Gen anime or manga, whatever. First of all, this arc introduced us to Valkyrie, which was the whole point of coming to this planet, was to get Valkyrie. Madame Kurenai is a villain that we can show pride in as Eden Zero fans. And everyone in this arc had their own moment, yes, even Rebecca had a badass moment of her own. The setting of the entire planet is cool, how there's like two sides, the rich and the poor side. From the anime to the manga, how the planet looks is just cool either way. How the whole society of Sun Jewels ran, it feels like a fresh and alive planet that has life and goes on without like the main characters being there. And Sun Jewel was the arc where things started getting really dark. Like, we had the crew go there. Oh, we're gonna find Valkyrie. We did it already. We did it 3 times. We're gonna find Valkyrie. Yay! Gets there. She's already dead. Like, huh? Like, our characters get put into slavery. Slavery! And then Kurenai, don't even get me started on what happened to her. We had really good fights. There was really good storytelling, really good character development. With Hamura finally becoming the final piece of the Eden Zero crew, and they are finally able to take off and leave the Sakura Cosmos. I don't care what anyone says, because what I say is straight facts. Sun Jewel is the first S tier arc in this video. You know, a lot of people don't really like Hiro Mashima. They say he's like a bad writer, which is completely crazy because somehow this man managed to go from Sun Jewel to Belial Gorg, because that's what we're talking about next. Some way this man, Hiro Mashima, managed to make back-to-back bangers. 2 S tier arcs back to back. This arc is arguably the peak of Eden Zero. We got introduced to Clean and Laguna. They got introduced to the crew. We finally get to see the Shining Stars fight, and we got the battle dress requips. And this was Hamura's first fight as a Shining Star, and it was her best fight when she fought Clean. We had the best villain in the series, Draken Joe, making his return to the series to wreck shit. We got introduced to the Overdrive, and the boy Shiki finally achieves it for real. Like, for real, Overdrive finally achieves it. And this is arguably the darkest that we've gotten in the series. This is like, Shiki dies. Shiki dies in this arc. But also, Rebecca learns that she can just hop between universes. And overall, this is just a great finale to the Sakura Cosmos saga. So, Belial Gorg, get up in the S tier, bro. You deserve it. In front of Sun Jewel. Alright, so up next we have the Eden's 1 arc. Now, this is how you do a short arc. It's very short, very simple, and yet it doesn't feel like filler. Now, the way I see this arc, even though it's short, it does deserve to be its own arc, because while Belial Gorg, it was the cake, frosted up and everything. We got Eden's 1, that's just a cherry on top. We had the shock at Granbell where, oh my god, they weren't evil, they were just all dying, the whole planet is dead. We had Ziggy shock to us. It's like, oh yeah, I'm not a good father. I'm just evil now. Oh yeah, and I'm alive. And we had arguably one of the coolest ship versus ship battles with the Eden's 1 versus the Eden 0. Overall, this is a very good arc. And the only reason that it's not S tier is because it gets brought down because of how short it is. If it was longer, it probably would have introduced a lot more. But for right now, Ziggy, why is it Ziggy Returns? Or who cares? It's the Eden's 1 arc, A tier. Alright, the next arc we have is Red Cave. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I forgot this was an arc. I'm honestly kind of disappointed by this arc, because this is the first arc of the new saga. You know, this is supposed to transition us into the new saga, but what did it do? Bikini shots? This arc was the beginning of the setup for the Oi War arc, and it introduced us to Nero. And it also gave us a new threat of the Ration 6 Interstellar, which is supposed to go after the Ration 6 Galactica, and those two are having beefs. And you know, this arc is basically just a beach episode with some little canon thrown around in there. Honestly, if you took out the Interstellar and Nero, and you just shorten this down to 2 chapters, would anyone be mad? You know, just have those 2 chapters just be the beach episode. That's it. Alright, Red Cave, I'm sorry to do this to you, but you're going in the D tier. Alright, up next we got the Foresta arc, a very, very good arc. The main takeaway, we got Hermit versus Mueller. You know, Hermit not wanting to be the forgotten Shining Star, not wanting to be a jobber, had a career making moment when she finally took down her abuser. And Rebecca and Happy had a fight against a character named Brittany. Really, Mashima? You just had to pick the most basic of English white girl names. Oh yeah, Hamura had a good fight with a living intelligent Ditto. Also, we got Shiki versus Justice, where Shiki just got absolutely slammed. And you know, the best fight would have been Shiki versus Justice if it wasn't for Justice versus Elise. Elise versus Justice basically carried the arc. It had epic action, epic storytelling. And you know, one of the most iconic panels in Eden Zero where Elise and Justice give each other a kiss, but you know, stabbing each other in the abdomens, turning each other to donuts. Foresta is still an A tier arc. Alright, up next we got the Sandra arc, and you guys thought I was shitting on Milliardine and Red Cave. You guys are not gonna like what I have to say about Sandra. Nobody's a fan of this arc. This arc is filler. This arc is the worst of Miladian and the Skull Fairy because it's too short. It feels like filler, and it should be a part of the arc that comes next. Sandra is just the Oi War arc pre-game. After this video, can we all agree that Sandra is just a part of the Oi War arc? Like, this is not its own arc. It cannot stand on its own as its own arc. It's just a part of the Oi War arc. This is the pre-game of the Oi War arc. So with that, I don't have it on here. I'm just gonna plop it right down there in F tier. Alright, up next we have the Oi War arc. The Oi War arc is the cream of the crop. But this is the grand finale of the Oi Cosmos saga. This arc has everything that a perfect arc should have, let alone a great arc. It introduced us to a lot of new characters, and more importantly, it introduced us to some fan-made characters. That is right, there are people's OCs in Eden Zero, and they are canon. Poseidon Shura was a villain that was way better than we all expected him to be. Very captivating, very entertaining, fleshed out. Everything about Shura was great. This arc had everything that a war needed. There was plenty of ship battles, plenty of fights, plenty of deaths. Every time we changed location, something important happened. Something memorable happened. Basically, every chapter, something important happened. And it gave the series a new direction, especially with the death of Witch. Arguably, the most important, most impactful, the saddest moment in all of Eden Zero. Witch's death will never be forgotten. It is something that will stand the test of time. It is on par with Ace's death. It is on par with Jiraiya's death. We can all agree that the Oi Aoi War arc is definitely an S tier arc. It's an S tier war arc. It's an S tier arc in general. Oh yeah, and for anyone that's wondering about the X495 arc and the Cade War arc, those arcs aren't finished. I'm counting those as one arc. So the X495, you're not getting your own spot. You're part of the Cade War arc. If I was just to include the Cade War arc, it would probably be S tier. Probably top of A. I do like the Cade War arc, but it's not as good as the Aoi War arc. But that is the end of today's video. If you guys like the video, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and share. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Deuces.